Hi-da-ho, hi-da-ho, howdy-ho. How y'all doing this fine, cold morning? Apparently it's 25 degrees outside and feels like 15. This winter has been a bit cool already. Anyways, so my mind is spinning. My mind is spinning, going round and around and around. Around and around and around we go. How many times around? Nobody knows. What did we used to say when we were kids? I don't know. Remember when merry-go-rounds used to be legal? Remember when kids it wasn't outlawed for kids to have fun? We used to have merry-go-rounds. There are these things, they basically spin around and you spin them faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And then inevitably somebody gets hurt. And that's half the fun. Half the fun. Anyways, around and around we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. So I've been thinking about Wix, and I've been thinking about Silicon Dojo, and I've been looking at what Wix can do. So silicondojo.com, we use Wix, and I know some people are being like, "What? You're Eli the computer guy. Why don't you roll your own?" Because $12 a month. Because $12 a month. So Silicon Dojo again, trying to figure out, a little while ago, basically where would be kind of like the central portal for Silicon Dojo, right? For basic information, for calendars, that type of thing. And I was looking at different things out there, and I defaulted to WordPress. Honestly, my feeling was WordPress would probably be the better option. But the interesting thing is in the 2024, WordPress has gotten expensive. Right, because that's the thing. One of the reasons I was going to default to WordPress is I used WordPress for Everyman IT. So the whole online education thing back in 2009, the company was actually called Everyman IT, and that's when I had my Xeon server, and that's where I used WordPress as the content management system for Everyman IT, and that had a membership site on it, that had a forum on it, that had a whole bunch of the fancy functionality for 2009. Anyways, I didn't have to pay a lot for it. That was a nice thing, like WordPress was free, obviously. And then the plugins weren't too bad. It was like you pay $100, done. You just pay $100 and you were done. Like if you wanted upgrades or whatever, you paid like $50 every once in a while. That was about it. But the interesting thing that I found is when I was going to go to WordPress this time is those plugins have gotten expensive. Now it is not $100 and done. It is a subscription fee. And it's like a $20 per month subscription fee too. It's not one of those things where you're like, well, it all works out in the end, right? It's not like, oh, if I pay $100 this year and I pay $50 for an upgrade next year, that's $150. So they're charging me like $5 a month, and so it all works out. No, no. It went from like $100 upfront cost and $50 per year or something for upgrades if you decide to buy them, to like $20 a month. You're like, wait, what? That got expensive. So WordPress, curiously enough, the open source solution has gotten shockingly expensive and has a shocking amount of walls. Shocking amount of walls. So anyways, I was out there. I was trying to look for a solution. That was the thing too. Like if I do WordPress, it means I got to roll my own. It means I'm responsible for it. I got to put it up on a VPS or whatever else. Blah 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 blah. And that's where I came to Wix. And I was like, you know what? Taking a look at Wix, and it seems like they had a lot of options. They had some e-commerce stuff. They had some forum stuff. Some other things. It's like this will probably be good enough for what I'm trying to do. And if you sign up for like 3 years at a time with their discount, it comes out to $12 a month. So if you go to silicondojo.com, yes, it is ugly. It is ugly. That's not Wix's fault. That's not Wix's fault. That's my fault. But if you just look at the functionality, you get all of that, right? So you get the forum, and you get the membership, and then you get the blogs, and then you get e-courses that I've been talking about. You get calendars, all of that crap just done for about $12 a month. Now, to be clear, it is a little bit more complicated to set up than it may seem. Like this idea that web designers are going to go extinct because Wix exists. Ah! Oh, I've been dealing with the web for 20 years, and Wix is a pain in the ass. Pain in the ass to set up. But anyways, right? So I decided to go to Wix. Like, okay, $12 a month, that's an easy thing to do. But the curious thing is, as I've been using Wix, there's more and more functionality. And one of the things to be thinking about, like with a startup or any endeavor that you do, I hate startups. With your fever dream, I'm not here to teach you about startups. I'm here to teach you about fever dreams. I don't know what Silicon Dojo is. Look, Silicon Dojo changes lives. Eli, what does Silicon Dojo do? Well, I know it changes lives. Yeah, what does a profit loss look like? Let's not go there. What's the business plan? Let's not go there. Let's just stop with the changing people's lives. Anyways, right? So, anyways, I'm here to teach you about fever dreams. Other people can talk to you about startup life. Anyways. So the curious thing is, right? So again, I'm trying to figure out the whole Silicon Dojo thing because I'm stuck in Asheville. And Asheville has, it's not that we don't have a tech scene, we have an anti-tech scene, which is, again, something that I was not expecting. As Donald Rumsfeld said, there are known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. Yeah, the unknown unknown for moving to Asheville is we have the anti-tech scene, which is just very weird. It kind of like people are kind of like nice to your face and they kind of snark about you behind your back. I almost feel like that's how they feel like with tech around here. But anyways, I've been trying to figure out what to do with Silicon Dojo. So we have the Zoom classes, so that's great. And we're doing the in-person classes here in Asheville. Again, I get a couple people to show up. Free tech classes on Python and AI and SQL, and I get 2 people to show up. Anyways, I'll teach 2 people. But I've been trying to think about what to do going forward and all that kind of stuff. And again, we've been talking about Durham. One of the things I've been looking at Durham is it is long. Again, it's resources. There's the idea. You know what the idea people would say? Well, Eli, what you need to do is you need to go to a bigger city and you need to teach your classes. That's what idea people would do. And then they go off and have a beer and they feel very proud of themselves. The problem is I've actually got to implement this horse crap. Implementing horse crap is a lot more difficult than creating horse crap, I guess. Anyways, so again, I've been thinking about the whole Durham thing. I've been trying to figure it out. Because it's actually going to cost me a chunk of money to do Durham. Again, because I've been looking at American Underground. So we want to do classes in Durham. So this place called American Underground has a classroom of up to 40 people. It'll cost me $200 a month to become a member of American Underground. So that's not too bad. Hey, Eli, for $200 a month, you can teach multiple days of classes to up to 40 people. Done. Not done. It's 3.5 hours away. So Durham is 3.5 hours away. It's a doable drive. It's 3.5 hours away. It's not like I could do it in the morning. Like Charlotte's 2 hours away. So theoretically, I could drive from here to Charlotte in the morning and drive back at night. It would suck as a commute, but that's actually a possible commute. 3.5 hours isn't even a possible commute. So if I go to Durham, I've got to stay at least one night. Again, if we're going to do this a couple of nights, right, then I've got to pay for a hotel room. So it's not now $200. It's $200 plus gas. So I'd say $50 for gas. And then you start looking at the price of hotel rooms. So the price of hotel rooms are like $50 a night. They're $150 a night. An adequate one. Somewhere between 100 to 150. I like Hampton Inn. Woo! Anyways, let's say 150. So that turns into 450. So 450 plus gas is 500 plus 200 for American Underground is 700. And that's not including me actually eating or anything in the modern world where a cup of coffee now costs $5. So I've been thinking about all this stuff. And again, what does the implementation? Again, not just the implementation once. It's like Eli, I thought you got some donor box donations. What, you can't drop $700 on a free class? Oh, anyway. So, well, yeah, but again, it's the iteration. It's not about dropping $700 once. It's about dropping $700 and then $700 and then $700 and $700. Right? It's not $700. It's $8,000 or whatever over a year, or $9,000. I guess it would be $9,000 over a year. To be thinking about that, if I did that every month, that total cost comes out to $9,000. So you go from $200 to $700 to $9,000. Right? The real world of money and profit loss statements. Anyways, I've been thinking about that a lot. I've been trying to noodle basically how to do Silicon Dojo. Because again, that's the thing. It's it's all about profit loss statements. It's all about profit loss. It's not literally how much it costs you to ship a product does not matter. How much money you can earn by selling that product does not matter. It's the spread between those two. right? So if you can sell a product for $1 million a pop, but it costs you $999,000 to create it, that is going to be an unsuccessful business, right? If you're selling something for $5 a pop and it costs $1 to create, and you can sell 1 million of them, that is going to be a much, much, much better business, right? That's the whole, and so that's one of the things to be thinking about with all this kind of stuff. Is again, it's that gap. It's the gap between the cost to create and the amount that you can sell it for. It's one of the reasons that inflation is such a big issue right now. Again, however you feel about the politics or whatever, one of my frustrations with this current administration is how they've just scoffed at the concept of inflation. And again, for me coming to Asheville, when we were originally looking to come here, so we've been looking to come here for years. You could get 1,000 square foot box. That's all I really need for Silicon Dojo. I just need 1,000 square foot box for $4,000 a month. You can get 1,000 square foot retail space for $1,000 a month if you go back 5 or 6 years ago. Get internet, whatever, $1,200, $1,300, right? That's right. That's your internet. That's your insurance. That's your box, right? Well, that's you can figure out the math on something that's going to cost you that amount of money. Whereas now the price for all this real estate has gone through the roof. And again, like I say, for my 700 square foot classroom, I'm spending $2,100 a month, right? It's not about how much the classroom costs. It's how much can you earn, and then minus how much is the classroom going to cost equals what you go away with at the end of the day, right? So for me, like $1,000 isn't that significant, whereas like say 2,100 plus, because I had to pay insurance and all that kind of stuff, actually does get to be significant. And so that's like the thing to be thinking about. That's what I'm thinking about, like with Silicon Dojo, and the steps to do next is how do you make that very, very, very basic math work out? Again, it's important to me. Again, free to the end user is important to me. I think a lot of people don't quite understand that. Like I say, this whole free to the end user thing, they're like, "Oh, that's a great idea. You should charge." God damn it. But I see the value of it. I see the value of it. I see the lives of people that have changed, that have been changed because of the content I've been able to create on YouTube, because they didn't have to swipe a credit card, right? The guy that I met from Africa. All right, I was here in Asheville. It was late at night. I just wanted to go home. I was at the bar. My wife had been drinking. I hadn't been drinking. It was like 11 o'clock. All I wanted to do was go home. My wife wanted to stop somewhere. I was like, eh. Anyway, so I'm there, kind of cranky and tired in a bar. You know how that is. Sometimes you go to the bar, you're like, ah, and other times you go to the bar and you're just tired and cranky and want to go home. That's how I felt. Anyways, this black guy walked up to me. He's like, ah. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Again, I was tired and cranky. He's like, "You're Eli the computer guy." I was like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, no, you don't understand. And I looked at him. I was tired. I was cranky. He's like, what don't I understand? He's like, "Well, I'm from Africa." I said, "My village didn't have internet access. So I walked to a village with internet access. I downloaded your videos to walk back to my village to learn technology." And now he's in the university in Cincinnati. That is a real fucking story. That is a real story. And that's why I think, like with free to end user and the entire thing with the barriers and the thing with the walls, is how many people are not going to be able to make the world a better place simply because they couldn't scale a 1 foot wall, but they didn't know how to get over that wall, right? Again, imagine for a second. Imagine if we actually believed people were valuable. Imagine if we actually believed in the intrinsic value of human life, and that everybody was put on this planet to make this world just a little bit better. Imagine if we actually believed that. Anyways, so again, the whole free to the end user thing, the gateless thing, like that's intrinsic. That's intrinsic to Silicon Dojo and what I've been doing for a long time. And if that doesn't exist, then I might just go off and create a development company or whatever. Like it really is about one of those if else statements. Like if I can't make this free and gatekeeperless, then I'll go do something else. I mean, in technology, don't get me wrong, I'm doing it in technology. But hey, I don't know, I've never run a development company before. Maybe I'll go run a development company. So anyways, I'm trying to figure out that math and those numbers so that it makes sense. I don't mind teaching for free. I do mind a little bit to pay to teach. Anyways, so that's kind of where we come to. The medium is the message. Medium is the massage. Medium is the message. This is a great book. If you have not read this book, read this book. This book talked about how the Xerox machine was fundamentally changing society. Oh my God, have you seen how fast technology is moving? The Xerox machine is changing everything. I was actually interested in this though, because it's talking about that is the technology of this particular era, and it was talking about that like with books and with publishing, right? So previously, if you wanted to get your material published, you had to go through a publisher or whatever else. It was a big Megillah, right? It was easier to get things published and out there than it had been a couple hundred years ago, but you still had to go through this whole Megillah. And so the whole argument here is once you have a Xerox machine, once you literally put publishing into the hands of anybody, how does that change society? And that was the curious thing about it, how does it change the message, right? The medium is the message, right? So if you have to create a book, right? So you have to write a book, 300 pages. That's going to take a lot of time. That book then has to get edited so people can actually read it. It then has to get formatted. It then has to go through a manufacturing process, right? And so if you're going to produce a book that you're going to try to sell for 20 bucks or whatever, the content that you're going to put in that book, the message that you're going to put in that book, you're going to either try to make it incredibly populist, that a lot of people are going to want to read it, like Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code, or you're going to try to make it like evergreen content, maybe something like a dictionary, right? Because so many resources go into producing that thing that, I mean, you got to get your money out of it somehow. And what they're talking about with the Xerox machine there, which is very interesting, is the idea is like what happens when you can start creating booklets for like $1 a piece and you can do it on demand. So you can just say, hey, I'm going to create a book on Python or whatever. Does anybody want to buy one? People say, yeah. You get their dollars, you go, you print them off, you give them their books, and away you go. And so the interesting thing there with that book is the idea is that literally the message is going to be modeled after the medium that is being produced on, right? And again, like you think about with education, right? If you're going to have a university, the medium of a university, you have an instructor, you have a classroom, how you're going to do things. That is going to be a certain, the education that's going to be produced, the message that's going to be produced is going to be produced in a certain way. Again, for things like college degrees, do college degrees make an ounce of sense? Especially in the modern world, and that they're really not changing. It truly, really are not changing very much. No, but it's the medium. Like we have universities, ergo, we have to create education that supports the universities. Again, they are not creating education to empower the students. They are creating education in order to support the universities, right? They have created a structure that costs a tremendous amount of resources to keep running. They have to get people to pay in order to keep that structure running. Therefore, they create education that supports the institution, not necessarily and almost never actually the students. And that's why we get so many students coming out with $100,000 in debt with basically basket weaving degrees, right? But anyways, right? So that's one of the things to think about is that the medium itself can drive the message and how you're providing it. And why this comes to Wix, right? This comes to Wix. It's like Wix is almost like the 2024 version of Xerox. Because I've been sitting there and I've been looking at all the functionality that Wix has, right? Because they have that core membership model. But then on top of that core membership model, then they have the events module. On top of that, they have the forum module. But then they also have the appointments module, and they have a lot of other modules in there to be able to unify things together. And one of the questions that I'm asking, because again, Wix cost me $12 a month. Wix cost me $12 a month, and Zoom cost me $18 a month. $30 a month. $30. Like really, when you think about it, it doesn't cost a lot of money to run Silicon Dojo. Um, and that's one of the things I'm thinking about. I get per $700 a month and per other fees and everything else. And that's one of the things I'm looking at now that I found this new like appointment module in there. And one of the things with the appointment module, like what I used to do is I used to do Skype meetings with people. So I did like 400 or 500 Skype meetings. Spoiler alert, it is always mommy daddy issues. Anyways, so I did that for years. And then I stopped doing it because I just got tired of mommy daddy issues. But one of the things I was thinking about now is it's like, well, look, so we have the Zoom classes. So we have the Zoom classes for Silicon Dojo. So that is interactive and online. So if you have questions or whatever else, that is interactive and online. And then we're going to be doing the e-classes. So they have this e-education module, yeah, whatever. So it allows me to break down all of these subjects into very specific modules. So we're going to have the Introduction to Python series soon, and literally it'll be Introduction to Python and was an introduction to Python and what are modules, if else statements, functions, the whole 9 yards. And so that's going to be part of it, right? So you can come to the Zoom classes and you get the interactive component, or you can do like the e classes or whatever, and that's self study at your own time, not interactive. And then you have the forum, which is it's a shitty little forum. But then there's the appointments module. And so one of the things I was thinking about with the appointments module is that I could have office hours. All right, so if you're following along at home or wherever you're at, and you do the e-classes or you do the Zoom, and then you have additional questions, right? No, semicolons or whatever. And then if we used the appointment module, I could actually have office hours and clear out like 15 or 30 minutes per appointment. And then I could actually have the one-on-one interactivity with people all around the world. So you get the interactivity and you get the global reach, and it doesn't cost me any more money. I don't have to drive 3.5 hours. I don't have to spend $700 a month. I can just sit at home and take the Zoom call, try to answer people's technical questions. So something to think about. Something I'm thinking about. And I think that's one of the things to be thinking about with your fever dream. Again, we're going to stop talking about startups here. This is not about startups. This is not about founders. This is about people sick with fever dreams. But there's something to think about, like with your fever dream. And again, what is your intent? I think we talk about that with intent, right? Intent is going to drive everything. What is your real intent? What is your actual intent? I don't care. I don't care. Talk to the person in the mirror. It's not me. But what do you intrinsically, internally actually care about? And then when you look at the technology and you look at the landscape that's around you, can the technology help you to support your intent better? Because again, if my intent is really to empower people, if my intent is really to educate people, right? Then the classroom, then the Zoom, then the YouTube. Those are all ancillary. Those are tools that I use to produce the outcome for my intent. And so if new tools come down the road, do I change what my plans are as we move forward? Is there a better way to drive your intent than the way that you're currently thinking about things? You know, something to ponder, something to think about. Again, every day I wake up, and I go, am I being boomer? Am I being boomer? To be clear, I'm not a fucking boomer. I am not a boomer. There's just not even there. Not even there. Anyways, but again, the whole thing, like when I think about like, am I being boomer? The idea is, am I trying to build something in today's world based off of yesterday's mentality, right? The way things should be. And again, I don't know how things should be. I have no idea how the way things should be. The way things are, the way things are. You can either build for the R or you can fail miserably. Anyways, some of the things I'm thinking about. Because it is interesting with Wix. Wix is fascinating, and Wix actually does a really bad job at advertising. Because I know you're probably listening to this, and you're like, "Well, that's weird, Eli. Haven't you looked at membership sites before? Like, it's called a membership site, Eli. Come on now." But the funny part was, I was actually googling and trying to look for membership sites for a couple of years. Because I'd rolled my own. I used PHP Fox years ago, and so I used WordPress years and years ago, 15 years ago, 15 years ago. Anyways, I used PHP Fox 10 years ago. So I had rolled my own, but again, I didn't want to do the whole roll my own thing because I'm responsible for it. But then I got out there and I looked for membership sites. And again, there's like Wild Apricot. There's a whole bunch of them out there. But the price point and the functionality was pretty piss poor, and the price point was pretty damn high. Again, like with max users and all that kind of stuff. And so like that was the interesting thing. Like with going with Wix, I didn't realize they had any of this stuff. I was like, oh, okay, this will be just a nice landing page, be able to put some of my stuff up there, make it a little bit easier. But then it's like, oh, okay, so they've got the forum. And oh, okay, they've got the membership site. And oh, okay, they've got the e-commerce site. And oh, okay, they got the appointment thing. And oh, okay. And all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, Wix is kind of powerful. Hey, Wix, Wix, people who run Wix, you know what you should do? Advertise better. Hey, Wix, have you heard of this thing called advertising? Because I swear to you, I have been doing Googling for months trying to figure out the solution to go with for a membership site. And I basically gave up. I really did basically gave up. And that's why I went to Wix. It's like, yeah, all this other stuff is. And now I'm sitting there and I have Wix. I'm like, oh, there is a hell of a lot of functionality here. Again, you can give people badges. What's really interesting too is, again, they've got this whole back end. And that's why I also want to start driving everything through Wix. Is that they've actually got a CRM solution built into it. Well, no, but think about that. And again, this is a medium and this is such. And so, like with a CRM solution, so basically everything that the user does on your site can be recorded. So if you take a class, if you take one of the e-classes, that gets recorded. There's just a little log file. If you do a forum post, that's in the log file for you. If you create an appointment, if you RSVP for a class, and so if I'm going to do an appointment with somebody, let's say I'm going to do an office hour appointment, I can bring them up in the CRM solution that's part of Wix. And there's all of this information I can plug in there. I can plug in notes. I can see what their history is. You can have agents. So again, if I had employees, if I had employees, you can actually assign different people, like different representatives or whatever. And again, that's like one of the useful things is, again, for me actually trying to provide like education services. And that's kind of thing like we're thinking about like augmented reality. Like augmented reality, everybody thinks about these stupid ass glasses, over their eyes. But my augmented reality is I'm about to do a Zoom meeting with somebody. I can just pull up a screen. I can see everything all the classes they've RSVP'd for. I can see the e-commerce. I can see the notes that we've done in the past. And I can immediately jump into that meeting with an institutional memory of what Silicon Dojo has been doing with this person. And again, that's one of the things to be thinking about too, is like institutional memory. Everybody's always focused on AI. Fuck AI. Fuck AI. What I'm interested in is the institutional memory. People having relationships with the institution, right? And so by having the CRM solution, all this stuff, that starts to give the institution a memory and relationship with the person. And you're a priest of the institution. It is kind of weird to start thinking about it. You're like the representative of the spaghetti monster, right? The spaghetti monster is the institution, and you are simply the meat sack that is going out to talk to people as the intermediary between the people and the monster. I probably got went a little too far with that one. Anyways, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to be thinking about. Like with your intent, when you see new technologies, would you change, or how would you change how you're implementing your plans? When that new product comes down the pike, do you see a new way of doing things? Something to ponder. Something to ponder. Because again, like that's the thing. Like again, like with a lot of people out there, like, oh, Eli, I can't do that. And again, yeah, you might not be able to drop $1,000 a month. But that's what I'm trying to figure out with Silicon Dojo too. Like one of the key components of Silicon Dojo is how do you drive the monetary resource consumption down to a point that almost anybody can do it? How can I create a system that a 15-year-old could replicate? Could I create an education system that a 15-year-old with a newspaper route, I don't know, with a Twitch account, whatever the hell the kids are doing nowadays, kid equivalent of newspaper route. I'm Gen X, not boomer, damn it. Anyways, with whatever the modern version of a newspaper route is, could a 15-year-old have the financial resources to be able to replicate what I'm doing? And again, that's one of my other intents too. One, it's to empower people with education and all that. But can we come up with structures of education that also don't have that barrier, right? Oh, you want to do a math dojo. You want to do an English dojo. You want to do a Wiccan dojo. Man, again, that was a 90s thing. Anyways, right? The idea, like, democratizing, re-democratizing the concept of education. Like, how would Buddha do it? How would Siddhartha, not Buddha, fuck Buddha. How would Siddhartha do it? Siddhartha was Buddha, maybe. Anyways, right? Again, I'm Buddhist. Bad one. Don't worry, I'm not going to proselytize. Not going to proselytize. I'm a bad one. Anyways, but I think about that. Like, one of the core concepts of Buddhism that I like is a whole idea, like the sutras I used to read when I was younger. And it would be, again, Siddhartha, not Buddha. It was Siddhartha under the Bodhi tree with his students. And so he was teaching the most valuable thing in the world. He's teaching the most valuable thing in the world. There's nothing more valuable. Like not just what the world is, but literally how you interact with the world, right? Enlightenment. Anyways, but think about that. Is there anything more valuable? If you believe in it, I'm not saying you do, but if you believe in it, is there anything in the world possibly more valuable than enlightenment, becoming enlightened? Anyways, and you know what he needed? You know what he needed? He needed a tree. He needed a tree. They go out, they find the Bodhi tree, they sit under the Bodhi tree because it was hot, it was sunny. It's a hot place. You want a tree. Right? Again, that's what would Siddhartha have done if there were no Bodhi trees? Have you ever thought about that? Like, really weird? Like, where would Buddhism be today without a Bodhi tree? What if Siddhartha had come to the concept of the middle way, but there had been no tree to sit under? Would we have Buddhism if Siddhartha had been born in, like, Saudi Arabia? The medium is the message. The Bodhi tree may have been one of the most significant concepts of the entire Buddhist religion. Anyway, I'm going to start getting called a heretic by the Buddhists. Gotta be careful. I can only be called a heretic by 2 religions. If I get called a heretic by 3 religions, I think I'm out. Anyways. But yeah, that's what I think about. Right? Again, and that's one of the driving principles is why do we need insanely expensive structures in order to teach? And again, don't get me wrong. Again, if you're teaching like some engineering, like you actually need equipment. If you're teaching HVAC repair, you need HVACs to repair. If you're teaching welding, you need crap to weld. You need welding equipment. Don't get me wrong. Like when I say this, I do understand that some education is going to cost you a lot of money. I mean, you do in fact need facilities. Sometimes you need facilities, right? If you're going to learn how to be a doctor, Right. But there's a lot of other stuff. Like again, like when I went to school, I had to do I had to do like 40 credit hours. Basically like a year and a half of general electives of things like mythology and humanities. Why do I need an expensive building for humanities or mythology or any of the crap that I took? Right? You don't really need that. All you kind of need is the Bodhi tree. That's one of the things I think about, though. Again, like when I look at Wix and I look at Zoom, is Wix the modern analogous concept of the Bodhi tree? Can can we build can we build a bigger, faster, cheaper Bodhi tree? I don't know. What? What does this have to do with functions and API calls? These are the things that I think about. So, anyways, something to consider. Something to consider. What is the Bodhi tree of your intent? Right? Whether you're a cook, a baker, a chef, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, when you think back to whenever it all started for you, and you think back to what was required, to what your, I hate to say hero, Siddhartha was not my hero, to what to what the people that you look up to required, what would be the modern version of that? And can we use modern technology to do that? Anyways. Anyways. Thoughts. If you've not read the book, though, very good book. This is like an old version. This might be like the first version. And there's a lot of stuff in here. There's some naked bodies, so I don't know if I'm allowed to show it to you. But it's interesting, right? It's basically it's words and it's pictures, and basically it's trying to juxtapose the pictures and the images with words to get you to think about how the presentation of the image changes the message itself, right? What is if the Xerox machine was the 1960s Bodhi tree, what is the 2024 Bodhi tree? Or I guess 2025. We're getting close to 2025. I don't know. If you want to follow along with what I'm doing, you can go to silicondojo.com. If you're like, what's the plan, Eli? I don't know. I keep working. Every day I push the ball down the field. That's all I'm doing. Every day I'm pushing that damn ball. Anywho, see y'all later.